Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals. On today's episode, I'm going to show everyone how I make my not-so-secret formula recipe for my sealant. This is what I use to make sponge food bricks turn nice and hard for construction. This is also what I use to attach any sort of patio paver or gravel or grit to my terrain pieces to seal them in. This also provides a nice prime for your terrain, as in a nice black color. And it's also what I use to seal my XPS foam. So stay tuned, this tutorial is really easy. Here are some examples of the terrain pieces from a prior tutorial that I used my sealant on. And as you can see here, the sponge fruit bricks are really hard. To start with, we're going to need some affordable acrylic paint. I've got a gallon of that, and I've also got a gallon of Arlene's PVA glue, which is, according to the label, America's favorite glue. They also come in smaller jugs, ding, so in case you don't want to go ahead and buy gallons. We'll also need something to mix our sealant in. I like to use either this bowl if I'm doing a large scale or repurposed sour cream containers. And we'll need a tool to stir it up. We'll also need one of my favorite instruments in the universe, a Sharpie, and let's get started. This container of acrylic paint had about a quarter of the container full of paint, so I thought it would be perfect to repurpose as some sealant. So I dumped that into a container, an old sour cream container, because I like to upcycle as much as possible. And then I'm adding an equal amount of PVA glue. Now I go with the Arlene's tacky glue because it's super thick. And just take your little stir stick, which I use the back of a paintbrush, and just start stirring it up until it's well blended. Now for this, I use equal parts, 50-50 ratio. So however much black paint I put in is how much PVA glue I put in. Now this is not an exact science, and if you have too much glue or too much paint, you should be okay. Acrylic paints are pigments which are suspended in a polymer emulsion. Acrylic paints are water soluble when they're wet, but they become water resistant when dry. It basically turns into a plastic. If anything gets too thick in the process of using your new sealant, feel free to water it down to help it get into crevices as needed. When I was finished mixing everything, I poured the sealant back in the container where the paint came from. I made sure to get every little last bit. I actually went in there with my finger to get everything. This is something that I've learned just works out better for your future self. Clean off the edges of the container so that the lid will not stick when the sealant dries. Then I go ahead and write sealant on there, as well as a list of ingredients. Even though I know what's inside, I still write a list of ingredients, and I put that on the cap as well as the sides of the container, because sometimes in my creative whirlwinds, the cap gets separated from the container. And there you go. There's your sealant. Enjoy this tutorial, and I hope there's lots of terrain making in your future, and have a good one. Thanks for watching.